What if you could change your life? What if the sorrow could become joy and the darkness to light? What if you could heal not only yourself but those around you? Well, you can. This is Alchemy, and these are the Alchemy Sisters. Join psychic Jennie McDaniel and spiritual advisor Mandee Elam for a magical 1-hour journey into esoteric spiritual discussions.
Hello and welcome to the Alchemy Sisters. You are here with Mandee and Jennie. Hi, Jennie. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good here in Northern California. The sun's out, the sky is so blue, and I can't think of one thing to complain about.
What a nice place to be in, especially right now with all the energies we have going on. We're like right in the middle of 2 eclipses. We've got another one and a full moon coming tomorrow night. And peace is not a lot of what I'm hearing today from a lot of people.
I'm taking it where I can get it.
Exactly. Well, welcome to the Alchemy Sisters. If you're just tuning in, myself and Jennie McDaniel, we host a discussion here on most Mondays, all in relation to the multiverse, healing, navigating life, and the divine energies. Through our wisdom and our special guests, we intend to bring awareness, clarity, and knowledge, as well as free listening and resources to all of our listeners. So if you're just tuning in, we welcome you and we thank you for joining us. Tonight we have a very special guest. Her name is Naomi Calderon, and she is a master coach who teaches the 5 elements of Chinese medicine and how to apply them to your life or business. She's also really, really interested in teaching about a few things. Actually, I'll wait and I'll ask her about that. So welcome, Naomi. How are you tonight?
Thank you. First of all, I am so happy to be here. Finally we've been connecting behind the scenes, and I feel like I'm already getting to know these women. I'm like, I love the juiciness that they bring. I'm like, I want to be a part of that, so I'm excited to be here today.
Well, you are. And for our listeners, just so you know, Naomi just recently joined Heart Over Ego Radio, and her and the beautiful Leela Simmons are hosting every Wednesday. Is Wednesday your show? Rain Radio on Wednesdays. Yeah. Every Wednesday they're offering Rain Radio with lots and lots of topics and wisdomatic ways to add light and clarity to your life. You know, this week they were talking about commanding the calendar, and they've had all kinds of amazing episodes. So we're just so excited and so grateful that you joined our team, Naomi, and that you're here with us being a light bringer.
Awesome. Thank you.
Welcome.
Yay, where should we start? I want to know about when your spiritual awakening happened. Were you younger? Were you in your teens? Were you an adult? When did that come in for you?
I'm going to say I was an adult. I grew up in a very Christian household, and I went to a Christian college, and I was very dogmatic. And belief systems should look a certain way. I didn't care what you believed, but you better know what you believed, and you better be able to spout it out at a moment's notice. I look back at my younger self, and I'm like, wow, what a pain in the ass I was.
Hey, we do the best we can, you know, and that's all we can do. And when you know better, you do better. And that's probably a big part of what led you into doing the healing work that you do, was all that dogmatic conditioning. You didn't stand a chance against it until you became aware of it.
Absolutely. Hugely so. And it was probably when I went through yoga teacher certification that things started really breaking open for me. There was a time, if you've ever taken yoga classes where they do heart openers, you may have experienced things like this. I laid on my mat and sobbed, absolutely sobbed. And I had recently had a dream just prior to that where the imagery in it was all about shoving and hiding everything. And that had been my MO for years. Shove things and hide them so that people didn't see them, because if they saw them, for certain they were not going to like me. And so it was on that yoga mat that that dream I'd had just prior to that experience really got in and just started prying that crack apart. And that's, for me, where it all started. Whew.
So exciting. Yeah, yoga is a wonderful gateway for so many healers. When I lived in Boulder, I got my first taste of real yogas and the discipline they put forth and the opening that can happen in that space. It's wonderful that you were able to do that on your mat.
Yeah. And I was working as a personal trainer at the time. And so my approach to everything was hit it hard and get it done. I mean, there were no excuses, no holds barred. Get your shit done. And that's how I approached the mat, which if you've been on a yoga mat, that probably makes you giggle. If you've never been on a yoga mat, just know that's not necessarily the most fortuitous way to approach it. I was going to master that sucker. I was going to own that mat. And the mat is all about dropping in. So it broke me open in a great way.
Oh, I could see that, and it's interesting because one of the topics, this is a perfect segue, we want to kind of talk about with Naomi is kind of this need to be busy all the time and wearing it like a badge of honor. And it's kind of the same thing when you were talking about, the hit it hard and get it done. That has a lot to do with the way many of us were conditioned in a patriarchal society to push, push, push and produce, produce, produce. And it's interesting because yoga, especially yin and other ones, are very feminine and very much about receiving and listening to your body. So that must have been almost like a bit of a shock, like switching from doing this personal training into the yoga practice.
It really was, and it was a great place to be as well, because yes, while yoga is a very powerful thing and requires power in and of the body as well as the spirit and the mind, it definitely is a flow, that yin and yang, the giving and taking, the being able to let go and allow, which is definitely more the feminine side of things. And then to switch over to the masculine side of personal training, it ended up being kind of a fun and almost amusing balance as time went on. But initially, it was challenging to let go of that masculine approach to the mat, for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, I like to use the term, people are yanged out. We need some yin in here.
Yeah, and this time of year especially, we're in the most yang season of the yang time of year. And that is how you mentioned patriarchal society, and that's just it. And especially a lot of people I work with are entrepreneurs and business owners. And business by nature tends to be masculine because you have to get stuff done, right? And our society asks us to go, and do, and look at all my accolades, and look how busy I am, and all this stuff. And there's an imbalance. It's not that masculine is bad. It's not that we need to get rid of it. It's not, but it's about coming into balance.
I agree. We talk about that a lot here on the Alchemy Sisters, and especially, with the Me Too movement and women rising in so many ways, that the masculine energy does get a bad rep, and it's about understanding the difference. Like the masculine is like the gumption and the go and the driving force, and the feminine is about, receiving and being graceful and artful and tactful and creative in a lot of ways. And you really, each being, doesn't matter what gender you are, it would behoove them, as Jennie always likes to say, to really find that and balance that. Do you feel like that's something that you've been able to really kind of balance out now that you've been practicing both and moving into your healing world?
Some moments of some days.
Yeah. We're all just like, a work of art, one moment at a time, that's for sure.
Other moments, it's like, oh, wow. Yeah. No, I think last time I did laundry, I folded up the feminine and stuck it in a drawer. Okay, where did I put that? So I'm here to give you hope, people. There are some days I have it mastered beautifully, and it's like, yes, allow, invite, And then other days where I couldn't tell you when the last time I sat back into that energy was. It's been 3 or 4 days. So that's where being mindful comes into play, because the more mindful we are and the more intentional we are, the easier it is to do that. And it's funny when you bring up the Me Too movement, what comes up for me, because of course I can have a button that says Me Too on it as well.
Mm-hmm.
And when I look at that movement, and when I look at the women stepping into leadership, I think it freaking rocks. And my question for myself and everyone else who is stepping into that, how do we do that in a way that embodies the feminine energy so that we are avoiding bringing these movements forward from a masculine place? Something to contemplate.
I think so. I love that question. What are some things that have you thought about that a little bit, Naomi, and some things that you've kind of thought about embodying that will help that?
No, only because that's what came up when you said that. I tend to see things in pictures, and that was the picture that came up.
Oh,
and,
beautiful.
There was a conversation happening on Facebook, because that's where people seem to want to talk politics these days, about some of the women coming into power, and whatever was being said was not really very polite. I'll just put it that way. Mm-hmm. And so it has me curious. How do we? Because I'm a Leo. I'm a double fire sign. I'm pretty fiery and feisty most of the time. I bring that yang energy a lot, which is why Leela and I are such a great pair, because she's very yin. And yet when I see this, and I see it for myself, sometimes that you have to be heard. So you have to bring a bit of that masculine energy. You have to be able to stand up and lean in. And how do we also bring the feminine with that? Because I believe that's, so no, I haven't really thought about that, but I'm looking at my own life and process as I'm speaking this out. What could that look like? What does it need to look like to really bring healing to our cities, to our communities, to our states, to our counties, to our country, to the continent, to the world?
I love that. I think it's absolutely beautiful and brilliant, and I talk about embodiment a lot with some of my clients and goddess groups and different places I'm at and interacting, and I always just try to drop myself down. One of my favorite, I don't know who said it originally, but one of my favorite sayings or mantras or quotes is revolution begins with inner evolution. So it always starts with us, and it always starts with us in our everyday embodiment. And I always just think about it like, how can I, be more embodied as to who I am and what that means, and whether it's like, holding the door somewhere at a grocery store and like letting someone come in and giving them a smile, or if I'm around someone, say you're around like a heated conversation, you're around family or friends and people are talking about politics and there's something you don't agree with, you don't have to engage in the art of war, and you don't have to take offense. You get to choose your actions and your reactions. And if it does cause you to trigger a little and you feel a feeling in it, it is important to speak your truth. But say that from a place of discernment and self-love. And I think that's where a lot of the masculine part can come in, is with like the discipline and kind of the control of the emotional space at times. And like we can have these conversations. And if someone doesn't respect your boundary or starts yelling at you or saying names or whatever it is, you can simply say, well, I'm sorry you feel that way, and I'm not going to engage with you if you're going to treat me that way, if we're going to act that way. And so I always just think about it in the sense of how can you handle each and everything moment to moment and practice embodiment. And I think, a nice place to start is simply by speaking your truth and setting in some boundaries, not saying yes when you really mean no. And I think that maybe protects your energy and your feminine energy. And then when it comes to actual action and moving forward or speaking your truth, because change doesn't get made if you're not honest. So if you're at, a family family barbecue and people are bitching about something that you don't agree with or whatever it is, and you want to speak your truth and you feel that rising, then it's important to allow yourself to, and then not take the reaction personally. I think that's a big part of learning how to start to balance this a little bit.
Absolutely. Because yes, speaking our truth, that's key. Not shocking that we have a ton of thyroid issues in this country. And that may be a whole separate conversation. But with that, a number of years ago, probably more than I actually am counting, it seems like everything's 10 years ago, but eventually more time goes by. I worked for a company that did training, both life coaching and business coaching in the salon industry, and I ended up with the nickname, the double-fisted fuck you girl. And because I had not done, I'd had my yoga mat experience, but I hadn't done the healing work yet. And so when I would get triggered or if somebody pushed up against me, I didn't know how to balance that yin and that yang, that masculine and feminine, how to hold my own boundaries. The only way I knew how to hold a boundary was fuck you. And come out with both barrels blazing. And it was mostly from fear because I didn't have that inner evolution happening yet. And so now it's an opportunity to look at, sometimes I do have to bring the both barrels blazing, but in the right way at the right time, not just reactionary to everything. Sometimes situations do call for speaking our truth in a very direct, very masculine, very no bullshit way. And I think other times it also asks of us to bring in that compassion, the allowance, the just the flow, allowing it to be in the flow and recognizing the spirit in the other person. And if we're in the moment of being triggered, I know for me, that's not easy.
Nope, not easy, but great opportunity to look at things from a different perspective. I've gotten better at it as I've gotten older, but certainly a spiritually difficult lesson to learn.
Yeah.
Well, it's hard, and especially when you're attacked, and especially if you're, a female and an empath in this society, and, a lot of us old souls and kind of light warriors here to make a difference. We've had a lot of past life trauma and drama, particularly from men, and so women especially get really triggered, if it's a man yelling at them. And one of my moments, this is like I was just kind of getting on my spiritual path. I'd always been on my spiritual path, but I just started really embracing it. And I had started working with Jennie about a month before this happened, but I was a social worker in downtown Denver, and I had a client come in my office, and, I'm like a 33-year-old young woman, and this guy's probably like 60, and he was like about a foot taller than me and about 100 pounds heavier, but really strong. And there was like an argument about a community garden plot. And he came in and he got right in my face and he was screaming at me. And then I was like, this is not appropriate. You can't act this way to me. And I felt myself getting so scared and so upset because I thought maybe he was going to hit me. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he's like, and this was like, a man of color. He was a black man. He's like, all you little white bitches. He's like, all you do is just, cry rape and say all these things, and like just started screaming about me about all kinds of things I didn't have anything to do with. And then he broke down in tears, and then he left my office. And I was like, whoa, like this was like a clearing. This was interesting. Some things just like happened here. And I was like, all right, I could get really scared. I could lock the office. I could run away. But I was like, my spirit and my intuition were like, nope, everything's safe. This was like he was never going to hurt you. This is just a release of a lot of things. And then the next day he came and like, apologized profusely and told me all like his whole life story. And he had gotten like sent to jail for false accusations for a long time and a lot of other things. And I ended up having a really great conversation or a really great relationship the rest of the time I was there with them. And that I feel like was an opportunity where I really kind of took my power back and I got to learn how to like control and choose my reaction in that moment, especially when it was something so threatening, where I had had relationships and things like that before where I'd be fighting with my boyfriend or partner or whatever it was. But this was very different and I felt such protection, and it almost felt like the timeline shifted, and then all of this energy was just compounded and then released. And it was really cool. And I never in a million years thought out of that kind of experience that I'd feel more empowered after.
How awesome is that? And what a great gift, both for you and for him, to have that download, to allow the space for him to say what he needed to for his own healing instead of taking it personally. How absolutely stunning.
Yeah, and at first I didn't think it was going to go that way. I was like, oh no, here we go. Like, I got to duck and cover. Like, what did they teach me in nonviolent, communication skills? Where do I put my desk in between us? And then all of a sudden, like, the energy just took over and it dissipated, and I got to almost rise above, almost like my higher self came in, and I took a little look at a different perspective of this, and I was able to hold it. And, and I talk a lot about on our show Womb Magic and here with Heidi, especially for the divine feminine healers are here, and the Magdalens especially, the amount of turmoil and sadness and grief and stuff that they can hold themselves, but they can hold it for others and then transmute it and allow it to pass through. And I felt like that was like an initiative moment of that kind of energy starting to move through me. And you just never know when these awakenings, these insights, these moments happen where all of a sudden we get to really choose what our actions and our reactions are. And then what can happen simply by you choosing how you're reacting to it, the ripple effect that can happen after. Because if I called him names, if I got him arrested, if I kept triggering him, he wouldn't have had the opportunity to release and then clear everything he needed to and start working on his deeper seated problems.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. And we never know what we might represent to somebody else that has nothing to do with us.
Exactly. Absolutely. Ladies, we do have a couple callers. Would you be interested in taking some callers?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Sure.
The first one I'm going to take is 914.
Hello?
Hi, 914. You are with the Alchemy Sisters. Who are we speaking with?
Hi, my name is Maria. I'm calling from New York.
Hi, Maria. How can we support you tonight?
I want to know if Melissa, my daughter, going to work for Melissa, so Melissa going to pay my daughter.
Can you repeat that one more time? You wanted to know if your daughter was going to pay something?
No, a lady. My daughter, she's going to work for this lady, the name of Melissa. I want to know if the lady, she's going to pay my daughter for the work that she's doing.
Oh, a woman named Lisa, if she's going to pay your daughter for the work she's been doing.
Melissa.
I see. Jennie, do you want to take a look into this one first?
Yeah, the first word I'm getting is yes. It does look like there's a little bit of tension. So I don't know if the woman's going through something or if your daughter's going through something, but I'm seeing some tension, and I'm just kind of bolstering that and clearing the space a touch while I have it on the table, so to speak. It does look like yes, but I'll tell you one thing. Psychics, we don't get to determine the future. We only take glances at what is and what we can see from the angle that we're at. So I can't fully 100% give you an answer to that, because that is all depending on that woman's free will. And I don't, thank God, don't get to control other people's free will. So what your spirit guides are saying is there's a little karma between your daughter and that woman. So they're working something out. And no matter what the outcome is, it's all about what we were talking about at the beginning of the show, which is managing certain situations with as much ease and grace. But it does look like she will get paid. It just might not be right when your daughter wants it. So if either of you girls want to tag on to that and take a look.
Yeah, the first thing I was hearing was yes also, and to be patient. And then also, Maria, your daughter is going to really need to advocate for herself and use her voice and make sure that she takes some action steps to make sure she gets paid.
Of course. Can I say
Okay.
something else? You see me with a child?
With a child?
No, it's not going to child. It's not going to go on vacation.
Can you repeat? I'm sorry. I'm just having a hard time understanding you. It's a little broken up.
That's okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Maria. Oh,
God
have
bless.
a wonderful night. You too.
Thank you. You too, sweetheart. Thank you.
Aw.
So cute.
So cute. I was just having a hard time understanding her on that second question.
We'll be sending her some light and love, as well as her daughter and the situation.
We will. All right. And our next caller, if you want to call in, if you have a question for Naomi, our master coach who's with us, or any questions for Jennie and I, our call-in number is 323-642-1188. And we're going to take another caller right now from area code 410. Hi, 401. I'm sorry. You're with the Alchemy Sisters. Who are we speaking with?
Hi, thanks for taking my call. I'm Carrie. I'm calling in from Rhode Island.
Hi, Carrie. How can we support you tonight?
Well, I'm a first-time listener. I think Spirit led me to your show tonight. I tuned in when you were describing your interaction with someone and how, you can only control your reaction. You can only control what's given out to you. And I've been dealing with that for quite some time. Sort of going through, I think like the dark night of the soul, they call it. I mean, I'm a very spiritual person, but sometimes people reveal themselves to you later than you were given in the beginning. Yeah, so it does play tricks on your mind, especially as a spiritual person, where you feel like the bad guy just because you're trying to empower yourself. So I'm open to any messages you may have. My birthday is coming up next month, and I just had an anniversary of a loved one who passed. So any messages, I'm more than open to.
Awesome. Well, welcome, Carrie. Thanks for tuning into our show. We're here most Monday nights, and we love holding space for people who are on their spiritual journey. And happy upcoming birthday. We have another Leo. Oh, look at that, Naomi. Beautiful.
We've got a house full of fire because Mandee's a Sagittarius and I'm an Aries, so I'm digging on the fire.
Baby.
All right, I'm going to start us off a little bit, Carrie. There's a few things coming in for you quickly, just from your angels and from a soul perspective. Number one, they've been giving you a very strong intuitive feeling, almost like a niggling kind of feeling, like it's like they won't leave you alone, and it's really in your intuition and your solar plexus kind of, and they're just saying that your soul is really calling you to make some big differences and some big changes, and that they're really proud of you because you've been starting to listen to that and lay out the foundation to get that shift happening. They're also saying that you're an old soul and you're very much a healer, teacher, preacher, mystic, that kind of energy. So keep enjoying your spiritual path. Allow things to inspire you and go down the wormholes. So say you listen to this, conversation tonight, and you're like, all right, I want to learn more about conscious awareness and my actions and my reactions. So I'm going to Google that a little bit, and all of a sudden you're watching YouTube videos and things just start unfolding. Spirit's showing that they're trying to give you a lot of little tools and messages and goodies, kind of, especially they're showing through media, maybe YouTube or something like that. And they're kind of playing around with that and trying to let you know that they're proud of you, that they're enjoying their relationship with you and watching you grow. And then they're also saying when you find yourself getting really upset or frustrated, even angry at sometimes, or sad, and you find yourself being in that emotion for too long, they want you to physically shift your vibration. So do something like dance or go outside and take a walk or drop into a yoga video or something like that to help start controlling your reactions better. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, it does. It's funny. I was laughing a little bit because I definitely ripped out the yoga mat last week. And I'm like, I have a dog, so it's awkward if he wants to do it with me. And last night I was actually watching YouTube, and I find a lot of videos on there. It's not something I've ever done in the past, but I'm here alone a lot, and I'm in a relationship. But sometimes when you're in a relationship and I'd rather be alone and single than alone in a relationship, if that makes sense. And where I reside is sort of where the spiritual energy is. So I definitely will sort of interact with that almost, and it's self-help within itself. And I know that it was I'm led there for a reason, the suggested videos. I said that out loud to myself last night, so that's absolutely 100% correct.
Perfect. Yeah, they're kind of giggling and nodding, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we're kind of taking over some of her virtual space and getting her the things she needs to know
Yes,
now."
they are.
And as you're contemplating, your relationship and the space and all of that, I'll be totally vulnerable. I'm stepping out of a relationship right now for the same things, and I'm going back home for a while to help my family and to take my own space because I'm a highly sensitive empath, and I realize as much as I love my partner and I want the best for him and I want him to want to be his best, his energies and my energies are not compatible right now, and there's some things that are just too much, and I had to lay some boundaries out and choose to protect my space because it was keeping me a lot more stagnant than I wanted to be. So just take your time with those decisions, listen to the whispers of your soul, get your ducks in a row, get clear about it, and then if and when you're ready, make the change and act upon it. But they're saying you're highly intuitive and it's just getting stronger and stronger, so they want you to pay attention to that. And just do not settle for anything that's not worth time or energy.
Just to validate what you just said, yes, you put it in a very nice light. what you said, but my significant other was beeping in while you were saying that, and he is a firefighter. So there's a lot of fire here tonight, and I think the energetic cords have to sort of be severed in order for for him to call in while we're having that conversation was just ironic.
Which is a perfect segue to throw this reading over to Jennie for a few.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Carrie, you have so many past lives where you were doing the work that Mandee and I are doing right now. You have been, I'm getting goosebumps. They're showing me hundreds of past lives, parallel lives, if you will. Past lives, if you won't, call it whatever you want. Time doesn't ultimately exist. But what they're showing are parallel lives where you've been a healer, you've been a teacher. They're showing England, a lot of Asian arts, which will fling it over to Naomi in a few minutes because I want to know more about those 5 elements. But you absolutely have done the acupuncture and psychology, and you name the healing. You've done it in a parallel life. So if you're not already practicing it in this lifetime, it would bring you great joy and healing of your own soul to play around with it. Look into it. You'll be remembering past lives. Things will be quicker. You'll learn things. Just take a look and play around with all the modalities, and you'll notice some of them will stick, and you'll learn them quickly, and that's paralleling out to those past lives, so you're remembering more than relearning. So good luck with that. I'm glad you've incarnated, and we appreciate you.
I love that because there's a plane going over my house right now, and I used to be a flight attendant, and I learned a lot of different modalities doing that. After I resigned from flying, I went back to what I studied, which was a paralegal, and that's just not my thing, I think, anymore. I'm more into holistic health. So 100%. Thank you both.
Oh, you're welcome. Hang on a sec, Erica. Naomi, do you have anything that you want to add in?
As soon as you said paralegal, all I heard was no. So whoever's helping you, they're very clear on that.
I know. And, I've applied to so many jobs, and it's just like I feel so stagnant, and I'm also in a relationship where it's just been sort of like my success is sort of down and his is up, if that makes sense. So I've kind of held back a little bit, but then when I try to put my foot out the door to my former position, I'm just not getting responses, and it's sort of self-deprecating. I feel really like defeated, and it's just probably not for me anymore. So that makes sense. That's But, I need a job, so I got to keep looking outside the box, and I think once all of this is settled, I'll go back to the structure. Structure's key.
And just allow yourself to receive, Carrie, because, there's always, if things get blocked off and you can't go back to the same thing, it's always for a divine reason, I feel like.
Me too. Now that I really, it's just like rejection. I'm like, why? And I'm like, because I think I need one in the situation I'm in. I shouldn't be working for them, and that's sort of my blockage because I know how lawyers operate. That makes sense. So,
right.
100%.
Part of that old energy, and it's interesting. Jennie and Naomi, I don't know if you listen to it, but Lee Harris puts out energy reports each month, and I like following Lee Harris. So, Carrie, you might want to check it out. Lee Harris July Energy Report, and that'll be on YouTube, and it's just like Lee Harris, Harris. because the July energy is all about the mirror of rejection. You're going to totally enjoy that talk, and so will our listeners.
Oh.
I don't know if you have heard it, Jennie or Naomi, but it's a good one. So I thought I'd throw that out
Never
there.
heard it. I've never heard it. Thank you so
well,
much. I'll definitely look into it.
You are welcome. Well, thanks for calling in, Carrie, and good luck to you. And yes, call us back some other time and check in, and we appreciate your support.
Thank you. Take care.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Wow, that was so nice.
She's sparkly. I like her.
Very sparkly. I loved you, Naomi. No, I heard no.
As soon as she said paralegal, it was like, no. Okay, well, someone's there. There's no well, maybe.
That a girl. Well, if you're just tuning in, we are the Alchemy Sisters. We're here on most Monday nights here on Heart Over Ego Radio. And tonight we are talking with Naomi Calderon about all kinds of beautiful things. But the next part I want to ask you about is about the 5 elements of Chinese medicine and kind of your knowledge around that and how it influences your work.
This is my nerd out platform. I have a huge inner nerdy science girl. And when I went to school for holistic health, one of the things, we studied a lot of different things, but we studied Chinese medicine, and I had worked with acupuncturists for myself and learned a lot from them in the past. And then when we studied this, it's like, this is amazing and brilliant. And I love the wisdom that comes from these ancient traditions. And so then fast forward a number of years, and I had done some timeline therapy studies, and recognizing that modality really digs into the emotions that we stuff into the body, the ones that we don't deal with, and how they manifest as disease, and the science behind it. And I really saw the correlation between that and the Chinese medicine. And I studied for a while with a woman who specializes in 5 elements. And for me, all of a sudden, it was like all the puzzle pieces started coming together. Because 5 elements looks at your nutrition, it looks at seasons, it looks at emotion and your environment, and how do these things all play a role? And so for me, since I do see things in pictures, it was really easy to start seeing what was and wasn't working for people, and what they might need to balance out, and how they can use the seasons and harness the energies to feel better, to create differently in their lives. And so for me, and I'm still learning. Oh my gosh, this is thousands of years old practices and knowledge and traditions. And to me, it's just beautiful, the dance of it all coming together.
I love that. When I was in massage school, I was drawn to acupuncture and the meridians and the energy, and I just absolutely love it. I'm not crazy about traditional schools, even the alternative ones, because it's just not a good way for me to learn. But if I did learn that way this lifetime, I would absolutely geek out on it too and have studied it. I love the topic. It's so cool and so vast. Like you said, it's 5,000 plus years old.
Wow. Yeah. And like for me, I'm not needle phobic. I don't have a problem with that. I just don't feel called to do acupuncture. I think it's absolutely phenomenal modality, and I recommend it often to clients. However, I just don't have a desire. It's not what I feel called to do, but the philosophy and the teachings around it just make sense to me. I absolutely.
I bet you were already a master acupuncturist in a past life. They were like,
you took the words out of my mouth.
You
took the words out of my mouth. I was just seeing the picture when you said it.
Very well might have been. And
let Jennie look into that.
Yes, well, of course, and that's what was coming through even before we got on the show today. When I've looked at your energy as master healer, of course, you've been in the Asian arts. You're hard pressed as a really old soul like yourself, like myself, like Mandee, to not play in most modalities by now. And then we have some that we overplayed in, so we're like, oh God, just not this lifetime, or underplayed in and we want to play in a little bit more. But they're showing something about the needles that popped up when you said that about the needles. So we're just going to clear some space around a parallel existence where it was your typical kind of you were very empathetic. It was a very heavy existence, and you were raised with what we would consider pretty abusive parents. So in return, there was an addiction space, and so if needles make you recoil or coil back, it may have something to do with this parallel life where indeed there was an overdose. So not to just spill your past lives all over on live radio, but we're bringing in some workers to work on your heart chakra, taking a look at that parallel life and bolstering it. We can't take it away, but we can bolster it. And they're saying that your higher self is now coming in and saying, yeah, that was a rough one. So your higher self is saying thanks for bringing in the bolstering of the energy around that particular one. And of course, outside of here, we can get together and do some more work if you feel like you want to. If not, that's cool too. But not uncommon to have empaths and what we call very sensitive healers. It's a common thing for us to play around with addiction, whether it be people, things, chemicals, whatever. So just clearing all kinds of energy around that. And it does look like there was a time where you were a nurse, and it looks like more of a battlefield nurse. So you were really in the thick of it, and you were like eyeball up to your eyeballs with like injuries and stresses in that space. And you said, okay, let's take a break from that. So it might be part of that too.
That would explain why. And Leela likes to use the H word in relation to me because she knows I'm just like, so much resistance to calling myself a healer. Mm-hmm. Because I approach it from a very practical standpoint. No, I'm a coach, and it's only been probably in the last 6 months that I've actually been willing to play with that H word. And so what you say makes tremendous sense to me. And I can see how that would have played out where there may have been some times where it's like, I'm done for right now, not wanting to step into it. So some resistance. So yeah, I would love to play later with that. Yeah.
Yes. And you're a beautiful blend. You're what I like to call a hybrid. You are almost equal parts if you don't want to use that word, we won't healer, but it's one of the terms, healer and science. So a lot of us will sit heavy on one side or the other, and that's just part of our higher self decision to come in and be like, okay, now I'm going full on science this lifetime, taking a look at that. You're lovely equal parts to that. So that makes you a very practical, down-to-earth healer, and that's what people need most of the time in love. So you set yourself up to be very practical, and I think that's helpful. People will say to me, you know why I keep calling you Jennie and I don't call any other psychics, and I would never even have considered calling a psych before? And I'm like, why? I'm curious. They're like, you're grounded. So I feel like we can get to the people who wouldn't play in these spaces by being very practical. So it's good. It's a good strategy.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Yay, higher self.
Yes. Strategy.
I love this discussion of the word healer because I've heard that be a trigger for a lot of people and a lot of my own clients and people I'm working with and myself for a while. It was funny, actually. I got really triggered with it about 1.5 years ago when we started this show. And I'm like, well, I don't really know what else to call us besides healers. And I'm like, no, I'm not a healer. I'm not a magical healer. Then I'm like, wait a minute. Let me take a step back. Why is this word triggering me? Triggers are an opportunity to heal, so let's take a look at it, And I'm like, oh, it's because my conditioning and my belief of a healer right now as it stands is someone who just magically helps you to heal without you doing much work. Then when I reevaluated it and I really like the definition of a healer is someone who triggers within you the ability to heal yourself, which is what I feel like alchemy is and what I feel like our role as healers are. So then I would tell myself every day, I would say that over, a healer, a healer triggers within you the ability to heal yourself. And I put it in my daily affirmations and in my mirror work. And then all of a sudden I totally dissipated that whole trigger. And for me, that's what the new definition is. So if someone challenges me or asks me, or how do you consider yourself a healer, I'll tell them, well, this is what I believe a healer is. And, and I do like the word because I feel like healing is what so many people are so desperate for right now. And that's like what they want. They want to learn how to heal themselves so they can heal the world, or mostly they want to learn how to heal the world before themselves. But we're trying to flip that around a little and help them to look at themselves. But for any of our listeners out there, or for you, Naomi, if you so want or choose, I always encourage people, especially if it's a word triggering, to take a little while and look at that definition and what your belief of it is, and then allow yourself the time to recondition that program.
Yeah, and I think that's a beautiful way of looking at it too, because I have always said that since getting into the wellness field, that if you give the body what it needs, it will heal itself. So looking at the definition of healer in that light, yeah, absolutely, I can embrace that. I think for me, part of it is my half side, what most people would refer to as my husband, because that's what he is a Native American elder. And he comes from a line of medicine people, so he's got what I would call spooky gifts. And so when I think healer, that's who I think of. I've seen him do absolutely amazing things, and the people that he has studied with, like Uncle George Naomi and some other traditional indigenous healers, those people have, wow. And I'm like, I'm just a coach. And so it's also recognizing, I think for me, the recognizing that what I do also creates healing. It may not look like that. It makes it no less powerful, no less potent. It's just what the definition, not only the definition, but the, what's the word I'm looking for? The level of importance, I guess, that I've put on that. And having come from that very practical background, things that are out there and very woo like that, it's like, oh my gosh, I used to have a belief I could never do that. And some of it, that may be true, and some of it may not. But I think that it's less about, for me, about the word and more about just what I saw as being healer versus something other than. Does that make sense?
Totally. Absolutely. I have had people trigger around me with that word, but oftentimes they're really religious. So they think that I'm claiming to be like their Jesus Christ, which I kind of do, but I don't to their face. I just call myself a healer because it's a big umbrella of a word where you can be a nurse, you could be a surgeon, you could be a beautician, you could do nails. And as long as you're holding space for somebody, that's what I consider a healer. And again, you could be triggering somebody in that space and then still be a healer. So it's just a big umbrella word. And I think a lot of religious people don't like it because they think that you're comparing themselves to a non-human entity like Jesus Christ.
That's interesting. That's funny to me. I have a few Christian friends who are probably crawling all over themselves right now if they're listening. Love it.
Well, ladies, it's getting to the end of our show. Is there anything else on your heart and mind that you wanted to share for today?
For those of you who are in the Northern Hemisphere listening, just a little reminder, we all know drink water because it's hot and it's summertime and all of that. This is the time of year when all the things we planted are actually bearing fruit. This is the time that we're opening to intuition. We're opening up. Everything is in an expansion type of space. In that, it can become easy to burn out. So this is where it's really important to balance, to really bring in the seasonal energies and maximize them to your benefit, not to your detriment, so that you really are explosive, but in a way that I guess, a contained explosion, really, so that you're doing it from a place of service and love and not depleting your own resources.
Excellent advice. I like that. Naomi, you've got such a commanding voice. It's almost like natural hypnotherapy to listen to you. I like it. I like it a lot.
Awesome. I'll take that.
Yeah, my seeds were getting planted, and I was like, oh, yeah, yep. I just listened. I fell in line.
Wonderful.
Well, Naomi, how can people get a hold of you if they want to set up a session to get some coaching from you?
You can Facebook stalk me if you'd like. It is facebook.com/Sunflower Sage, or you can find me online at naomicalderon.com.
Love it. Mandee, do you have any final words?
I just want to say thank you so much for coming on and holding space with us tonight, Naomi. You are just a gift and brilliant, and I'm honored to be walking with you right now on this mission, and I'm just so grateful you joined Heart Over Ego, and I'm looking forward to learning more from you. So thank you for joining us, and thank you to all of our listeners who tuned in to be with us tonight.
And again, we are the Alchemy Sisters. We are also Heart Over Ego Radio. We've got all kinds of new shows coming up. Naomi is on Wednesdays with Leela for Rain Radio. This is the Alchemy Sisters on Monday, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. That's 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Sundays, we have Everyday Psychic, where we do similar things. We interview healers and we take calls. You're going to like that one. It's a little circusy, a little like a kind of a fun circus energy. I dig that Sunday show. It's so fun, just like our Monday show. And it looks like on Saturdays we're going to be getting Kimberly, another medium psychic healer, wonderfully skilled. We have Mandee's new show coming up in the nearest future. I think you guys are taking Tuesdays. Her and Crystal are going to be doing radical spirituality. So that's going to be one you're going to want to catch. So again, Heart Over Ego Radio. We're on all major platforms and apps for podcasts. So whatever you normally use to listen to your app podcast, just go ahead and search for Heart Over Ego Radio. You will find so many shows being added. 7 days a week we're going to be on next month. So check us out. All kinds of good information, all free. A lot of them you can call in and get some information directly. So again, thanks for showing up, everybody. Mandee, Naomi, I've had a blast. All the listeners, we will see you next week. And everyone, have a lovely night.
Good night.
Good night.
What if you could change your life? What if the sorrow could become joy and the darkness the light? What if you could heal not only yourself but those around you? Well, you can. This is Alchemy, and these are the Alchemy Sisters. Join psychic Jennie McDaniel and spiritual advisor Mandee Elam for a magical 1-hour journey into esoteric spiritual discussions.